This episode is brought to you by Muntins Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntins has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntins offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntins malt. You know, we've known the Muntins crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntins malts, or homebrewers can pick up some right now online at txbrewing.com. Join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club. Be a part of the community and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntins, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsterette.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Peterball family farm, Hopsterette.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsterette.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsterette.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsterette.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Understanding flow control faucets, ideal kettle size for 5-gallon batches, and best practices for storing kegs. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 325. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call, leave a voicemail, get a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com at 325-305-6107. I'm one of your co-hosts, Joshua Stubing, joined as always, my co-host. First, he is the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com over there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the recovered, look, not even a nasty gash on his neck anymore, the Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, bienvenido, señor.
Hey.
What? Guten Morgen. No, actually, it's Guten Tag today. Hello,
Guten
James.
Tag.
It is Guten Tag right now. We have a weekly.
Guten Tag, Herr Stuben.
Yeah. Your German is great. We meet with the German on Zoom every Wednesday, and it's early for us, and so I'm always like, "Oh, Morgen, Guten Morgen," and he's looking at me like you're an idiot. It's Guten Tag right now.
Yeah, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's 4 o'clock. What are you telling me good morning for? He thinks I'm some like loser, stoner, hipster that just got up out of bed at his local time. Not like the.
And then it would be good night. Good night.
Is that how it is? Not
good
night. Yeah, I learned my favorite actually German story. I'll start off digressing right from the top. When Todd took me there the first time, it was just he and I. We were going to take a ton of product photos and all that. It was like March of 2018 maybe, or or like that year before the brow that was later that year. And we get there and people, so a German, is it like a salutation to say tschüss? Tschüss.
Choose is, goodbye.
Yeah.
Choose.
Todd, for a while there, thought they were saying cheers. I don't know if you thought that that's what the word was, but that's what you thought they were at least saying to you. Yeah. So people would say tschüss and be like, cheers, cheers.
Well, they say cheers too.
They do, so. I know, but all these people at the office were like, tschüss. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been telling them cheers because that's what Todd was saying. And then Franz,
I was like, cheers.
No, I wasn't saying cheers. I was saying tschüss.
Well,
which to me sounds like cheers.
Okay.
Cheers.
Well, it was Francesca who corrected me because I was like, cheers. And she goes, no, I am saying tschüss. I was like,
tschüss.
I said, yeah, cheers.
No, but the thing about German is always the same. It's you go, oh, I'm sorry, tschüss. And then they go, no, it's tschüss.
Tschüss.
And you go, oh, tschüss. And they go, no, it's tschüss.
Yeah.
So
every time.
It's so exact in your pronunciation. And it sounds exactly right to us. Yeah. But not to them.
But I will say they're at least kind about it. Y'all have been to France. I haven't. I've heard the French are a little rough in regards to like you try to say the word and like do not even try it, you know. But my favorite are Mexicans because you could I don't conjugate correctly 99% of the time, and I've never been corrected. Like I'm my grammar when I'm speaking Spanish to local, like in the office with Vilver or whatever, I'm basically saying like, I ran yesterday. If I was trying to tell him I went running yesterday, and he never corrects me. And it's in my experience, they don't. And he's Guatemalan. He's not Mexican before you correct me. But in my San Antonio Mexican experience, that's been the case. Yeah, and for new listeners, I'm half Mexican before you go, he really says Mexican with some inflection there. Like I could talk about Mexicans. We can too. Anybody can. Anyways, before we get more 1-star reviews, let me start off with some relevant news. I did put out a post on our social stuff like that. Whatever platform you're on, this is a great time to bring this up. Leave us a review. Apple Podcast is the #1 platform of people listening to us on audio, and we have like, if the download numbers are accurate, we've got like 2% of people that have listened to our show that have actually left reviews. And it benefits the show greatly when you go on there and you leave us a review. It helps us out a ton. If you do that on YouTube, especially, we're trying to grow the channel. If you're watching this there, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and click the bell notification and all whatever YouTubers say. But
you got to say smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Smash it. Yeah. I would have to tell y'all on off air how I miss you. There's a colloquial use of that word smash that young people use. And I had a mix up with someone when I was telling them I was smashing a dude on the mats at jiu-jitsu. But that's a whole different story. That's a whole different thing. Let me get to relevant stuff. Right now through Sunday, go to kegconnection.com, get really good deals on keg kits specifically. They're on sale, the homebrew keg kits, the commercial keg kits. You can go to kegconnection.com. If you're not in the Chub Club and don't have a unique promo code, you can use HHH and get an additional 5% off your order. Now is the time to be kegging. That's also a good segue that we are launching or have launched that wedding and event kit section, which right now does have just commercial kits because that's kind of the majority of people looking for serving beer at their wedding or event is usually a store-bought keg. We are going to add homebrew keg kits to that section as well. The article is about to get published. All the videos are getting up. It's exciting, Todd, that it's coming to fruition. And
yeah, it's been a lot of work, but we're going to do a little work on the front end part, and we're excited about it.
It's evolving, but thankfully, because of the work we've done, it's already we met with people who help us do ad campaigns and stuff, and they're like, you're already tracking on the first page for a lot of these keyword searches, and we're like, oh, that's fantastic. So the hard work is paying off. But yeah, if you have an event coming up or a wedding, or you know someone who is and they want to serve beer, send them our way. And why wouldn't you want to serve beer at your wedding or event? It's the right thing to do, which is my next segue to Easter. Go ahead, Todd. Go ahead.
Easter.
I had a segue. I was just to say.
Is it? I didn't. Are you brewing on Easter? Or
no, I was going to talk about beer being. So we are going to. You're such a jerk. It's relevant to the show because I was going to ask y'all, what are you going to have on tap for Easter? Because my aunt and my uncle, they brewed their own wit beer, a German wheat. And James, I still had some of your pressure Pilsner, and they wanted, I do. So they wanted it because we didn't have room in my dad's kegerator for all these beers. So we're going to take that because I think that's going to be the crowd pleaser. They were like talking about a second beer that would be, crisp and all that. And I think that describes the pressure Pilsner that you brewed. So Todd, you have 19,000 beers.
I have a special Easter beer I'm going to serve. So I'm excited about that.
Do you really? What is it?
I'm just going to rename the California Common the Easter beer. So,
yeah,
that's good. I like that.
Change the label on the thing. Yeah, it'll be great. No, I floated the Irish Red, and I think that might be my newest beer. That sucker, because I have 9 beers on tap, and it's kind of it's the menus there, so people can choose whatever they want. Oh my gosh, that beer went fast. Like everybody tries all the beers, and that's the one they keep coming back to. So, wow, I went through that 5 gallons quick. Luckily, I have another 5 gallons. So when I can find somebody strong enough to lift a whole keg of beer, I can put it back in stock.
I'll be there next week. And I thought
I'll get my brother to do it because they're going to be here this weekend. And
well, I thought the conversation was about to get very accusatory because I was there all last week. And
you drank some of it.
I drank a little.
You drank. It was really funny, James, because he was drinking the common and he was drinking the mild. And I was like, oh, you got to try the Irish Red. He's like, oh, yeah. He doesn't like change, He's like, yeah, I think I'm just going to keep drinking these 2. And then he tried it, and he's like, oh, my God, you got 3 beers I really like on tap. So, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, my red beer's long gone.
Absolutely.
Long gone.
Good beer just doesn't last. Yeah, I know. When I'm at Todd's, I'm drinking in, like an alt glass, but it's after dinner. I stuff myself, James, with Liz's food. You can understand why. We do whiskey drinks after dinner because otherwise I will explode. I can't take that much bloat. I overeat, so we switched to whiskey drinks. That's why I don't go through like gallons at Todd's house. But I did drink my fair share of your Irish and your California Common and your English mild. That is true. Yeah. So we're gonna James. Are you sticking in town? Do you have beer on tap for the holiday weekend? I haven't brought you.
Yeah, I haven't brought you amber lager, and then
he's got an Easter beer too.
Yeah, the amber lager.
Good. I didn't know if you had any left.
The California Common, and then I've got a little bit of your stout.
Nice. Oh yeah.
I think the California Common is my go-to right now. That's the one I can't get enough of.
And it's good and bright and delicious and all of that.
Your English mild. You had like all those 3 beers. Actually, I might be making this up because I don't know what your Irish Red finished at, but the California Common's pretty low ABV. The British mild is very low ABV. What was the Irish at? Was it like 5?
Just 5.5, I think.
Okay, so relatively low in the bigger picture. So yeah, it was perfect. James has made me a man who appreciates easy drinking. Like you
gotta be easy drinking.
Easy drinking.
I will say the one thing I miss on my beer selection right now is I don't have anything hoppy. Like I would love to have an IPA on there right now.
Would you perhaps?
Because I've already finished one.
Would you perhaps like to have maybe a smash IPA on tap?
I absolutely love that beer.
Well, let me segue.
You haven't talked about it yet, right?
So that's a great segue.
I've got some information I want to talk about.
Well, you can't see it on the screen, but we have options this month for recipe receiving members of our Trub Club. You can go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. The options are a very smooth, straightforward German Pilsner that I've named Unterdruck because I do it under pressure, as has James. James has been doing all these beers under pressure. That just translates to under pressure. Or a delicious, and this is very popular in Texas. I'm not sure how popular it is out of our state. The Yellow Rose IPA clone. It's a smash using Mosaic. It's delicious. It's oh gosh, now I'm brain farting. I'm gonna have to edit in an audio clip where I go, oh, it's from brewery.
Magnolia.
Thank you.
It's easy. I don't know why that brewery is always easy. I like magnolia trees, so it's easy for me to remember.
Beautiful leaves, on the magnolia tree. Yeah. But anyways, before you say your information, let me put it back on the screen if I can. There it is. Again, you have options. We used to do options way back in the day. It's become infinitely more difficult to do options when you're not in the ingredients business anymore. But this month, we felt like it's April. It's a good time. Spring has come, and these are both very solid recipes. And the reason we didn't just say, oh, it's just going to be a lager, is because not everyone's set up to lager, and not everyone's set up to do pressure fermentation. But this is a great introduction into either traditional lagering, or if you get the setup, which nowadays, guys, it has become more affordable than ever to do pressure fermentation. Those all-rounders from Firmzilla or Anvil has those chubbies. It is extremely,
between $100 and $200.
Exactly,
right?
Very accessible. So, or kegs. You could even get a floating dip tube and do it in a keg. If you're listening to the show, you know how much we support kegging. You should be using a keg. But Todd, you wanted to add some information to the Yellow Rose recipe?
Oh, so I was very interested because I looked at our recipe and it had a Pilsen malt. And then I went to the American Homebrew, or I actually went to the American Homebrew Association first because I was just trying to find a recipe for it real quick. And they are using pale ale malt on their recipe. So I looked at 3 or 4 sites, and then I went to Magnolia's site. Let me see if I can pull it up here. And they absolutely even say on their own site that it's a Pilsen malt.
I wonder.
So it's strange to me that the American Homebrew Association would have picked a different malt than what the brewery uses. So we, being the traditionalists that we are going to use the Pilsen malt, correct?
Absolutely. Which let me put it even back on the screen. I forgot to thank our beautiful sponsors of the Trub Club every month, getting you premium ingredients with these recipe kits. You got grains from our friends at Muntins, you got hops from our friends at Hops Direct, and of course the wonderful liquid yeast from our friends at Imperial Yeast. All of the information can be found again at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. And like I said, people way back when we launched it and we did options, it was overwhelming, but people loved it. So when we can do this like once or twice a year, and I really enjoyed it. And it's actually Todd's idea to do the options. He's always like, let's do an option. And then I'm like, but that's more work for me. And then you're like, I don't care. And then we change the conversation to lunch or something. But
I was going to say one other thing. When I was on their website, one of their other beers is called Gentleman's Relish. And, we're doing a lot of British malts now with Muntins. And I looked at the recipe. It's a brown ale inspired by English. It's got a cowboy with one of those hats they wore during the American Revolution. And anyway, great marketing. But it's Maris Otter, wheat, and dark crystal malt, just 3 ingredients. That'd be and 1 hop, Challenger. That might be something fun to try in the future as well, because all their beers are good. I would never have thought to put those 3 malts together with a single hop to make a brown, but I now want to try it.
Y'all still got to find a recipe to use those bags of white wheat we have up there.
That's what. Well, this would definitely be using white wheat if we did it.
There we go. There we go. I do also too, before we get into the questions and the actual meat of this show, I love how many craft breweries do share their recipes. Very straightforward. A lot of them even break it down into 5-gallon ingredient lists and all that, because they realize that's kind of the standard for what people are brewing. I think we've all kind of talked about it before, James. The real secret in their stuff is the yeast for the most part, right? Like that.
I think so. Yeah, it's a good part of it. That's, if you think about in terms of brewers and their recipes, I at least 2 times I can think of where they would not talk about the yeast. Now they'll talk about the grain bill, all of that, but they will not. You can't have any yeast.
Yeah, that's
this yeast under their yeast they say house. So does that mean it's their house, their own yeast, or is it Imperial?
No, it's no. That's good. That's good though, because Imperial knows people list that when they put their recipes out, and so people they know. Oh yeah, okay. Look up what is house yeast, and then in the search result there's imperial.
It's pretty creative, yeah.
Boom,
genius, man.
Genius, Owen over there. Oh, you're so smart, Owen. He probably.
Well, that's the thing. They don't actually give you the recipe for that beer on their website, but if you know it's only has 2 ingredients, well, except for the yeast, of course, malt and hops, and you know what the ABV is, and you know what the bittering is, then you pretty much can dial that in, right? So that's one great thing about such a simple beer.
Absolutely.
And it says a lot for a brewery that they can have such a simple beer and it just be so good. Like I seek it out when I'm somewhere.
No, for sure. Well, like that's why, again, we've said it before. The like Hans Pils from Real is my favorite Pilsner that I can get commercially, and it's not a lot going on, but that is so impressive that it's so consistent. You get Hans Pils from a can in San Marcos, or you have it on draft in Dallas or in the Valley, and it's the same. I mean, they're like breweries able to produce just the same thing and consistently, and it not have a lot going on. I mean, that is why Macro Brewery is what they are, right? For better or for worse, because they're producing the same product and people enjoy that taste, and it's the same everywhere they get it, no matter what, and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I agree with you, Todd. It's simplicity can be it's super impressive. Sometimes way more impressive than just a hop bomb in your face of, oh, this and that. But you like hop bombs, so. But for clarification, the recipe, put it one more time on the screen. That Yellow Rose IPA is not a hop bomb. And Mosaic happens to be probably my favorite hop when you people doing any kind of smash IPA. I think the what was that other one from Community Brewing? Their Mosaic smash. Isn't it a smash? Their Mosaic? Isn't it it's Community out of like DFW? And you've had it before. I have it in my beer fridge. You're the one who showed me it, Todd. I think it's called Mosaic IPA.
I don't know. That's a great question. I do really like that beer.
You love it, and it's actually a really good
I just forgot. I can't remember.
No problem. My point was just being Mosaic is a delicious hop. But with all that being said, I've got some questions for this week's show. Our first one's a voicemail. It's our buddy Nate from Oregon.
Hi, this is Nate from Oregon. Listening to your guys' last episode, I heard you talking about flow control faucets when talking about someone else's question. My understanding is that they're adjustable to reduce foam, but I don't really know much else about them. What are the pros and cons of flow control faucets? Do I need a new kind of shank to handle that? I just don't really know where to get started on this. I appreciate you all, Todd, James, and even Josh. Thanks. Bye.
And even Josh. Thank you.
Even Josh.
And even Josh. That's the story of the title of my memoir. And even Josh. I'm going to throw it to you first, James, because this is kind of an everyday question you deal with where CM Becker specifically manufactures standard faucets that are forward seal. They manufacture flow control. You have different different faucet solutions for different implementations, but you also have true flow control implemented where there's other ones available. So if you don't mind talking about the flow control, all that, and then Todd, we'll throw it to you as well, because you can talk about where it differs with varying manufacturers. So go ahead, James.
Our V10 is our flagship flow control faucet. And yes, you do have to change the shank on our flow control because we have what's called a compensator. It looks like a bullet sticking out the back end of the faucet, and it interfaces with a machine cavity in the shank, and that's how the flow control is achieved. The cool thing about our flow control faucets is you can actually shut the flow of beer off, and it's just metal to metal contact. It's from the stainless steel compensator to the inside of the shank, and you can leave the faucet open. So it's a real good security feature for the faucet. If you've got a bar or tap room at night, you can close the compensator, and if for some reason the tap handle gets popped open, you won't lose all your beer. It's a really good, efficient way of delivering beer without over foaming. So you get more yield per keg is what we push that with commercial tap rooms. I like it. I think it creates a better pour. Majority of our faucets have creamer function. So even though you can dial down the foam, you can put that perfect head of foam on by pushing the faucet handle backwards. And it's a really cool way of delivering beer in a draft system. It does need, you've got to have larger ID hose because you need a little less back pressure on the hose. When it hits the faucet, you're going to balance. What we call balance is the balance of pressure coming out of the keg with what's coming out of the faucet. And that's what allows it to dispense beer without a lot of foam. And the great thing about our V10, it's a creamer forward sealing faucet. Once again, it's got that creamer function, so you can top that perfect draw of beer off with a good head of foam. And it's a great way of saving money. You get more yield per keg. It dispenses beer better, in my opinion. It's just a great faucet.
And the more I'd say, to use the word like or phrase like budget friendly, like the X1s is what my pop and I use. They're that polymer plastic food grade, and those are also like the V10 is the Cadillac, right? Or
that's the commercial grade. But the X1, coincidentally, that X1 faucet is what's used in all the Twin Peaks restaurants.
Oh,
so
that's
we're pretty
right.
proud of that.
Yeah,
and they have both the plastic bodied, and they also we've upgraded a lot of those restaurants with the stainless steel faucet. And it's the same thing as the X1 plastic body, but it's in a stainless steel body setup, uses the same internal valve, has creamer, and it does have the compensator coming out the back, just like our V10. The cool thing about our flow control faucets is the compensators are interchangeable, and most of the parts are as well. So they're very versatile. They're easy to work on. Not a lot of moving parts, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. So because I've always thought, that like my system has the X1s on. I say mine, my pop system, my dad's has the X1. Todd's has the V10, and that is such a centerpiece. Like when you go into the barn and seeing them all shiny over there in the corner, like they're just very clean. And so I've always thought, well, the good thing is if and when we did upgrade to V10s, which we don't need to, but the aesthetics, they are commercial grade, so they're not overkill. But what I'm getting at is like the internals, like you said, are totally swappable. So like, I mean, I could if I needed to, I could save those X1s as parts basically, like because it could be used not interchangeable.
Yeah, the compensators. Now that's what I meant. Yes. The internal valve that shuts the flow of beer off on the X1 is not forward sealing, but all our forward sealing valves, internal valves, are interchangeable with all our forward sealing faucets, which is nice. I meant that, and I totally just meant the compensator, which like is the meat and potato of achieving true flow control. Is how CM Becker does it. Now, Todd, people might go on a website and they might go, "Oh my gosh, I could get this flow control from insert other brand here, whether it be Intertap or Perlit, and I could save some money, and it is also stainless steel." What do you want people to know is the difference between the compensation method CM Becker uses versus what some other companies use to achieve theirs?
All right. So there's two types of compensating faucets. One is a compensating faucet that's designed to work with a standard beer shank that would come with, if you're buying a regular old school faucet, that you could just use it with that. I mean, there's an obvious advantage there, and that you don't have to use a different shank. The disadvantage is you just have very little range. So you're able to change restriction, but you're not very able to change restriction very much. The European style, which interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure came from the United States, because I think it was originally
Cornelius, wasn't it?
Cornelius that did the faucet, but it was widely adopted not only in Europe but all over the world, is a compensating faucet which actually does the restriction in the shank itself, because what you end up with is a very long cone, and that cone, as you push it up against the sides of the shank and pull it away from the sides, gives you more or less restriction. Well, it gives you a very large area of restriction, and it allows for a very, very large range. So you really are able to perfectly adjust your system by using the flow control and not using any hose. I should say beer hose, which is typically the 3/16. In the industry, it's called choker hose. you don't have to use that. You can come in with a full size hose, and the advantage there is obviously that, let's say you have some temperature changes, or you have a little bit of overcarbonation, or you have something else that's causing your beer not to flow correctly. You can just turn that and fix it on the fly, and not have to worry about actually changing the length of your hose. So that's the big advantage there. And I would say that the V10 is, James said in your opinion, it's probably the best faucet as far as
I said
pouring
that.
beer.
Yeah.
I don't think it's my opinion. It is the best faucet.
You had me
pouring
there
beer.
for just a second.
you had me in the first half.
Yeah.
It is.
Where is he
incredible.
going with this?
I love that faucet. I absolutely love it. But you said I have the V10s at home. I have both. So all day,
that's right.
all night long, all day long.
All night long.
Correct that. All night long. When I'm pouring beer, I'm going around to different taps and I'm pouring off both of them. They both pour very, very well. So I think you'll be happy with either one. But the stainless steel obviously is a lot beefier and used. It's definitely better for a bar where they're got big long tap handles and all that stuff.
I was delivering those parts for my aunt and uncle that I got from headquarters when I left last week, and the beer, and my uncle, he has a cylinder tower on a 2 faucet kegerator, and he's used it for a while, years, and works great. And I was telling him, I was just talking about my pop setup, and I was basically telling him, like, man, the future, because he was complaining, he was trying to, how hard it is to open the top of the cylinder with the wrench and work on the lines, replacing it and all that. It's not enjoyable. And I was like, that's like one of my favorite things about the T tower, which we ended up getting because we wanted the flow control shanks to fit in it. The flow control is obviously the best part of the system, but there's so much space to work on those lines. When you open up that T-tower, you have so much more wiggle room for the wrench and adjusting things and all that. So I thought I'd throw that in as well. Like, people, it can be an inconvenience when you're like, crap, I just bought this 3-inch cylinder tower and I can only fit one flow control on it, or I can't get the setup I want, and I don't want to have to do this or that. But I'm just saying, if I was building a tower system from scratch and serving more than one beer, I think I would look at the T towers, so that it future proofs me if I'm not getting flow control off the bat, but also just working on those lines. I might just be a whiner. Well, no, pardon me. It's not mutually exclusive. I am a whiner, but I'm not wrong, right? Like, it's not enjoyable to work on the lines and the cylinder towers, in my opinion. But anyways, Nate, I think that wraps it up, unless y'all have anything to add that we're missing on flow control versus non-flow control or the other types of flows. I think we're good, right?
Yep.
Nate, thank you so much for submitting that question. This is a time to remind y'all, if and when you leave us a voicemail at 325-305-6107, you get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com, courtesy of the healing Mr. Todd Burns. Or if you text that same number or go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page and do it that way, you still get a $15 gift card, which I think is pretty stinking good, like our buddy Mike did. Hey, like my Uncle Mike. It's not my Uncle Mike, but Mike did. He used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, and he wrote, "Nice things about Josh. Let me keep my question short. I partial mash 3-gallon brews in my 20-quart pot. I did the math. That's 5 gallons. When I switch to all grain brews, I'd prefer to also up my brews to 5 gallons. Is it possible to yield 5 gallons using a 5-gallon pot, or should I buy a new one? If I do upgrade my pot, what's the ideal volume you would recommend me buying?" Man, there's a lot. This is like a dream question, because I could take it anywhere I want. Because I could say, you could brew in this and make up for it with water and the fermenter to get to volume. You could be doing, if you're doing extract brewing already, you could be doing 5-gallon batches already with what you have currently. But what's the ideal setup? Todd, I gave it to James last first. I'll give it to you first. Like, he has the exact volume kettle for the batch he's going for. Would you recommend an upgrade to keep things simple, or is there some workaround you do because we're both men of frugality?
You know, he said, "Can I?" I heard a great. I don't remember where I heard it the other day, but it was in a book you gave me, and I didn't really like the book, but I liked this one thing off of it. The guy said, "There's a big difference between can I and should I, right?" So can I? Absolutely, you could brew it at a much lower volume and then add water at the end and do something like that, but I mean, if you're going to start brewing all grain and you're going to do $5 batches, buy a bigger kettle. Yeah, I would probably, since you're not having you're gonna be able to buy whatever you want. I'd probably buy like an 8-gallon. So
yeah, what would you say about maybe a 7.5? Because I can link to a 7.5 in the show notes.
Sure. Yeah, 7.5 would work. It really would work fine for a 5-gallon.
Well, I mainly say that too because we happen to have the promotion going on for those 7.5 gallons that you had a special buy on. Yeah, and I was thinking in the back when I saw the question.
So 6 gallons too small because a lot of people want to do a 6-gallon because whatever reason they get a price on it, and a 10-gallon, in my opinion, is too big. So I think you want to go somewhere in between there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and James, same answer. I know. Again, I said Todd and I are the kings of frugality, but you're MacGyver over here. I can just see you if you were Mike being like, "No, I'll do the measurements to make sure that it's more concentrated."
No, I mean 7-gallon for a 5-gallon batch is perfect. You could even do 10, but I'm like Todd, you still have to cool it down. So if you don't have a method of cooling it down with like a chilling coil or pump with a coil, and you're setting that thing in ice water in your sink, like a lot of people do with extract, it's going to take a while. So
it would take a while.
Yeah, that would be one thing that I would consider if you're going to switch to all grain. Just figure out a good efficient way of chilling down the wort. And you can do that with a chilling coil from Keg Connection. We offer 2 different styles that work real good. And that's what I would do.
With that, I know we did a lot of calls and emails from people doing what Mike's doing or talking about wanting to step it up and like equipment wise and all that. But just to drag it out because I know I can, because that's been my new shtick. I've been getting so much feedback, not voicemail, or otherwise I'd probably play it on the show. A lot of feedback like, "Josh, you really do sometimes drag out questions." Oh, Todd,
he does drag out questions. I'll give him that.
Todd's right. I just want to add, it's not even dragging it out. If you were to just want to do the math with what you're doing, what I was going to say is it's such a great time to be a home brewer and be alive because there are calculators that would help you accomplish that. If you did want to keep your equipment and you're like, "I'm going to end up with 5 or 6 in the fermenter. How can I do that with my equipment?" Brewer's Friend has calculator. Everyone under the sun has a calculator. So if that is, I just want to make sure Mike knows you're not obligated to have to change your equipment.
I don't understand what you mean by calculator. I mean, if you're doing a 5-gallon batch,
to make sure you hit the numbers,
you calculate everything for 5 gallons, and then you do it where you put less water in it, and say you're doing 4 gallons, and you boil it down to 3.5. Well, at some point, you just add more water to it till you get to the 5 gallons.
Right.
I mean, I don't understand why you would need a calculator for that.
I'm saying if you're trying to, okay, maybe I have a fundamental misunderstanding. If you're trying to make sure my Kolsch ends at 5% ABV, this is what I want it to end up at after, whatever. But I'm not going to do a full 5-gallon boil. Like if I set up my Brewer's Friend and I go in the boil, I'm doing 5 gallons, and in the fermenter, I'm going to have 5.5. I can't do a 5-gallon boil on a 20-quart pot.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you just calculate it for 5 gallons. And you say this is a 5-gallon batch. That's what I'm going to end up with. Is 5 gallons.
My bad. Okay, yeah.
And it doesn't really matter if you boil a little less and then add the water to bring it up to 5. All those percentages and everything will work out.
Got
for
you. Okay.
Because I do that all the time. I mean, I just do it on a lot larger scale. So I brew batches that are 17.5 gallons quite a bit, but I don't boil necessarily at that because I don't want it boiling over. So I'll boil a little bit less, or I'll let it fall. It may even boil down to say 15 gallons, and then I just add that water back in at the end. So
totally. Okay. And you're saying
yeah.
because your original calculations on the software were set for the 17.5, that's why you keep hitting your numbers, even though you have boiled down to 15, adding that water.
Yeah, as long as you have the water back in, it doesn't really matter.
You're right
Yeah.
where you need to be.
Totally. Okay.
Anyway.
I think we're saying the same thing. I call even the recipe builder a calculator. I mean, if we're arguing semantics, I just mean like you don't have to do equations on paper. You can plug in info into an app, and and the numbers will be right. Is what I guess I was getting at.
Yeah, the calculators are going to give you volume versus gravity on a given recipe, and you can follow those and hit those numbers. But Todd's saying that it can be even simpler than that, than just adding enough, boiling down and getting enough water to get the gravity that you want at the end, versus trying to worry and fuss about it to achieve that same result when you're done at the hour boil.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So-
Because if you've got a 5-gallon batch and it's got these numbers, but you're only going to boil 4 gallons, you don't have to have a calculator to figure out the difference between the two, because you're just going to bring it back up.
Oh, I don't think I implied that, Todd. Oh, I would never.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's also good to have a refractometer, because that gives you instant gravity readings, because it temperature compensates as soon as you put the drop on the lens. It's a wonderful tool to have. It's definitely worth buying.
Yeah, very affordable too. And I would say if you have the budget, get the Easy Dens. That piece of equipment Todd has is
of
even.
course. We all want one of those.
Yeah, we all.
I have one.
Is anything that I'd said though before? Did that make me look stupid? I'll edit that out, Todd.
I never meant to feel like I didn't want you to feel like you were stupid. I didn't mean that at all.
No, but no, yeah. Oh, now I feel like I got to edit. We're not publishing this show. I'm going to tell y'all. You're not going to tell me which part I sound stupid. We had audio issues.
Oh no, you sound great. You sound great.
Yeah,
Don't worry
you leave
about
it in. It's fine.
Leave it in. Okay, deal.
I know you're not going to edit it, so I'm not worried about it.
I am not going to edit.
That would
it.
require extra work.
Oh, that
come
sounds
on.
terrible. Okay, Mike, thank you so much for submitting that question. Moving on, it's our final question for this week. I got stuff to do. So our third and final question comes from our buddy Ron from Vancouver.
You guys crack me up. I love it. Hey, this is Ron Ray, Vancouver in BC, Canada, and I've been listening for a while. This is the first time calling. I really dig the relationship you have, Josh, with your boss. If I messed with my boss anywhere near as much, she'd fire me in a second, man. So
not a
you're
bad
really
idea.
lucky, and I really dig what you guys have going on there. Anyway, here's my question. I've got several kegs that have been washed and sanitized really well with PBW and Star San. I mean, seriously, I'm a clean freak when it comes to brewing, so that's how I always do it. They've been thoroughly purged with CO2, and they're sitting there, and my question is, how long will they be safe in this condition? I plan to, and actually have been purging them slightly every week or so while still under pressure, and to really make sure that there's no oxygen left in the keg. At least that's my idea. Since sanitizing is not the same as sterilizing, is there any chance for contamination if left for weeks or even months in this condition? And then I plan to fill them with beer under a closed transfer scenario like I always do. So anyway, yeah, that's my question. Thanks a lot. Keep up with the laughs and the really great work that you guys do. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you for the question. First off, let's get this straight. I'm a Jim. I'm a catch. He is fortunate to have me around. Let's just set the...
I am.
But
wonderful.
Yeah, it's a wonderful working. It's coming up on 15 years too.
No, 15 years. Wow.
May 12th, 15
Wow.
years. I want you to take me to that pizza place y'all were talking about today. He talked it up,
Okay.
James. He said it was great. So with this question, this is different. We've had a recent question that got a lot of feedback on the people storing sanitizer for a long period of time. And I wish I would have pulled one up. I literally got 40 some odd voicemails of people talking about how, yes, I do store sanitizer this way and and here's why. So we got really good feedback on it. But he's talking about just storing the kegs. And we've kind of touched on this before, or we may have outright blatantly touched on it before. But it got me thinking, because I don't know if we've talked about like what pressure in a keg does, or if there's a leak, or my understanding, James, if I have a clean and sanitized keg and it has CO2 in it and I've purged it, that's positive
You're good.
pressure, right? That should be,
Yeah.
I'm That's as good as you can be, isn't it?
Yeah, I would just pressure test it before you decide to fill it. And if it doesn't have pressure, then I would think twice about maybe resanitizing it and purging it with CO2. But I think, if it's holding pressure and you've sanitized it, flushed it with CO2, or purged it with CO2 rather, and it's holding pressure, I think you'd be good to go. I wouldn't be afraid to fill the keg. And keep in mind, you're also filling it with a liquid with alcohol in it. So I think you'd be good to go.
Now, I was about to speak for you, Todd. You correct me if I'm wrong. I think you do it like how we send out kegs at Keg Connection, where you store them clean, and when you're ready to use it, you do the pressure test. Oh, yeah, it's still holding. There's no leaks, psh, psh, which is just pulling up on the leaf valve. And then you sanitize it before you use it. Am I correct?
Yeah, so I usually clean them and then leave them under pressure. But one of the things, and we get a lot of complaints about, I shouldn't say a lot of complaints, we get complaints about this over the years. Sometimes when you clean a keg, and I'm just talking about cleaning it with any brew clean or whatever cleaner you use, and you leave it in there, a little bit will come down from the dip tube when you're storing it and sit in there. And that can sit over time and get kind of a sweet smell to it. And a lot of times people are like, you said you clean these kegs, and I open them and they have Sprite in them. Well, it's not Sprite. it's just that cleaner sitting, that very weak amount of cleaner that's left over after you've rinsed it sitting there, and it gets kind of a sweet smell to it. So, what I usually do is I leave them clean, leave them like that. Now, I will say this, I do dry mine even more. So if I've cleaned it and I'm going to brew with it again, a lot of times I'll put it upside down in the sun. Then I'll put it right side up and I'll bang it and open the thing and let more liquid come out and turn it back upside down again and get it really dry, seal it up. And then it's just totally neutral when you open it later. But I don't ever leave them sanitized. I don't ever sanitize them and leave sanitizer in there. I always sanitize right before I put the beer in there. Do I need to sanitize? I don't know. I mean, probably not if you've got beer that's been sitting, it's got alcohol in it. I doubt that you would get an infection, but sanitizer's cheap, and I'm going to use it anyway on the day that I brew or the day that I'm doing transfers, because I got to sanitize other things. So I always just go ahead and sanitize the keg. I dump that sanitizer in a bucket, and I use that to sanitize everything else when I'm transferring.
Well, and I don't think Ron is specifically talking about like other callers had before, where I don't think he's leaving the sanitizer in there. I'm saying I think he's doing the whole process of cleaning it.
I do too.
Sanitizing it, and then storing it.
He
So,
is.
right.
Yeah, he is.
So I'm saying,
unless he dries it and leaves it open, he's gonna have a little sanitizer in the bottom when he's done.
Oh, okay. Because
you don't rinse with
no,
those
totally. My bad. I
Yeah.
just meant it's because I just wanted to avoid confusion, and I'm the only one who got confused because we're not talking about how other questions in the past where people are like, I make it and store it. What's the problem with that? That's not what he's doing. No, I totally get what you're saying. You can't. Yeah, it's very difficult to ensure every last drop dries up before you.
So it's a catch-22. If you ensure every single drop dries up of the sanitizer that you've left in there, then you've probably unsanitized your keg by leaving it open to the elements.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. Well, here's the main reason. I mean, tradition is actually the main reason why I just sanitize the keg right before I use it. But also, I use the keg to make my batch of sanitizer in, and then put it to a bucket for other things that need to be sanitized. And it's just part of my process of kegging day or whatever. Like I just make it a part of the process but I'm with you, James, where like he should be fine, especially like with
I agree.
Unless there's a leak, even if there was a leak, but let's assume it's a pressure tested keg and all that. There's positive pressure in that keg that's preventing oxygen from coming in any of the orifices, right?
Yeah, and there's should be a blanket of CO2. Anybody that's purged a keg or not keg, but purged a carboy or a bucket, when you open to put the tube in, you can see it kind of laying down in there, and that kind of helps too. I haven't had any issues with oxidation when we started purging everything. And that's one of the things that can be avoided very simply. And it's one of the things that really annoy me if I do have it in my beer, I just assume pour it out.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only thing that would make me a little nervous about sanitizing a keg and leaving it until the next time you're going to put beer in it is I have a lot of kegs and I brew a lot. I may not get back to that, or anybody, I guess, may not get back to that keg for an awfully long time. I don't know that I'm comfortable leaving a little bit of acid solution on the very bottom of the keg for months or whatever the length of time is.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what that's going to. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, and why. What's the? Why would I want to? What's the point of sanitizing it if I'm not going to use it right away? I might as well just leave it and then rinse it real quick, sanitize it, and throw my beer in there.
I agree with the formula you're laying out, but I'm saying different people, if we open our minds, Todd, to different perspectives, that's probably part of Ron's processes. He has a bunch of them, and I want to get them cleaned and sanitized together and then put them on. You know what I bet it's just part of his process. No.
What I was saying is could you would it be bad to leave that a little bit of acid solution on that stainless for a really long period of time? In other words, I don't ever leave anything in sanitizer for a long period of time.
I do what you're saying, and you're saying because you're not gonna, even if it's just drops or the little puddle that's gonna form at the bottom, what that could do to like deteriorate or whatever.
I don't know. I mean,
you literally just don't know.
Yeah, I just wouldn't be. It's not what I would do.
We haven't had Rick from Logic on in a long time. We could ask him. We could go, "Hey, pal, what's this?" Or let's ask your dad. Your dad, I bet your dad would know
what the percentage of or the pH. I guess it would be pH. Would it would affect stainless steel or degrade it to a point where it would be unsafe to pressurize?
Your dad would figure it out. I am confident in that. If he had all the information that he needed, like the numbers and whatnot, he would get us an answer. And tell him to call in.
So but we wouldn't understand what it was. So
I would nod my head. I'd be like, "Oh yeah." Every time I talk to your pop, that's me. I'm just like, it's way over my head. Your dad's so smart. What happened?
I know that and Todd, you probably did the same thing. When I went to draft school, we did acid line cleaning.
Yeah.
And we actually used pH strips. Once we cleaned the lines and then we rinsed them, and then we used pH strips till we were at acceptable level to connect it to beer. And, if that's pH strips or a pH meter can sure help too, if you're worried about that.
That's a good point. And that is all, speaking of like a very affordable gear to have, like for peace of mind, pH strips are dirt cheap. They're very affordable. I think y'all were giving them with brow tides, weren't you? I think you still are.
We give a pH meter, electronic pH meter away with every brow tog, along with pumps and refractometer, and it's a pretty good package.
That is, yeah. I before people accuse me of like, "Josh, though, you did very infomercially today." I just happen to bring up stuff that's relevant to questions, friends. Don't call me out in my inbox like I get every other episode. But Ron, thank you so much for submitting that question all the way from Canada. Eh? We appreciate it. That's all I've got, guys, for this week's show. Before we recorded, I said it's going to go super quick. I'm going to go through these, and it's like 50 some odd minutes in. So I do it every time. I drag them out. My apologies. Y'all get back to your day. I appreciate y'all's time, and I hope y'all have a wonderful Easter.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or leave a voicemail, be Todd's best friend, and get a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com by leaving us a voicemail at 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsors like Munton's Malt, premium grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already brewing with Munton's Malt, give them a try by visiting txbrewing.com or join our Chub Club at a recipe receiving level. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of Imperial yeast along with premium recipes from us when you join our Chub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew facebook.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.